everybody. Welcome to episode 18 of Are We There Yet? Stages of Love. I'm your host, Susan Ruth.
I'm your host, Mara Adelman, and we are two humans who are going to have the real conversations and raise all those questions that we all have about where is there when it comes to dating, relationships, and sex.
Woohoo!
Oh, have you figured out you're there yet? Where's your there been, Susan?
Do you remember a few episodes back, I talked about my friend who we've just danced around for years, and he sent me a bunch of, I felt like we had a really good communication and sort of answered a lot of questions. And then I never heard from him again. He just vanished in thin air. And I just heard back from him, and he's been traveling. So he's gone on sort of a spiritual
walkabout.
Yeah, like a walkabout. And I think that's good. It's good for him. I think he's really figuring out who he is and what he wants in life and all that. And he's been in places that are without communication. So that's kind of where that was. I thought, oh, good. I thought maybe you died or something. I didn't know where to send the flowers to your family. But yeah, so he's doing well. It sounds like he's doing really well, and I'm happy for him. And that's good. So it's nice.
It's also nice to have that like resolution in the brain, right? Because you were like,
yeah,
what happened?
Yeah, I was just glad to hear from him again and be like, oh, great. I'm literally glad you're not dead.
Glad you're alive.
Because it's weird when people just sort of disappear. I mean, I think I have a lot of people in my life that are like that. And then we just sort of pick it up where it gets left off, and nobody, either way, it's fine. But when you have somebody that you feel like you've got a deep connection with and they just disappear on you, then you think, did I do something wrong? Is it, and then I thought, oh God, maybe he heard me talk about him on the show, even though I didn't call him by name and I wasn't super specific, and you don't even know like who I'm talking about because I don't share that stuff with you. And I mean, not to divulge people's personal.
Totally.
You get it.
We're trying hard not to do that on here. Yes.
Well, not on here, but just in general in life. I think, keeping intimate stories intimate between the person that you're dealing with, and not, telling all your friends and family about it is a good thing. Firstly, because the friends and family, they'll never forget. You might be like, oh yeah, I guess he's back in my life. And the person,
totally.
Your friends and family are like, what? So it's better to keep things to yourself. Trust me on that. Anyway, I thought maybe he had heard me kind of talking around the subject and got mad or something, but no, he was just off on an adventure. And,
Don't you think as women, we do that so much more than men? When there's a gray area, our brains spin. I've done something similar where I was like, let me find a way to make sure this person's actually alive. Because it feels weird. Yeah.
I did think he might have been dead because it's, anything's possible. But
I for another date, I have a story exactly along those lines that somebody told me where they actually ended up in the hospital in paralyzed. And she thought, why hasn't he reached out? So for another time, but it actually happens. So you weren't being silly to think that way.
A little bit, but I just figured, oh, this person's mad. But then I'm like, if you're mad, it's because you fit the bill, Buster. But anyway,
see my thumb? It's my thumb. See my finger? Because if you fit the bill,
what's your there?
I'm tired, and I have had a lot of stuff happen over the last 6 months that has worn me out emotionally, physically, just tired. The universe keeps throwing me things, and finally I realized it was like the universe trying to teach me a lesson of impermanence. Nothing's permanent. Be in the moment, because the moment is good, because what's coming next might be worse. My Achilles heel is always my animals when they get sick. I have an autoimmune dog who's gotten sick a couple years ago, and then he was super sick.
The most California dog ever. Your dog has autoimmune problems.
He's autoimmune like all the rest of us Californians. It's not a.
He's like, is this kibble gluten free?
I was about to say it's not a celiac problem, but he stressed me. I mean, thinking he's dying and racing off to the emergency vet and twice, literally 2 days in 1 week, 24 hours awake, threw me for I don't stay. I mean, if I was partying, it might feel better. So he's doing better, but it's still, we have talked about this a bunch on the show, what it must feel like to be how do you think about being a sexual feminine creature when I changed the bed and he pukes on the bed, and I changed the bed and he pooped in the bed, and I'm running around trying to just keep everybody alive while also trying to fit in. So it was a lot. And I had already decided that I was going to maybe put dating on the back burner for a minute because of all the other stuff I had going on. And of course, that's what happens. The minute you do that, I wasn't going to get off the apps. I was just going to like, and I hadn't been out because I was with the dog for 2 weeks, keeping him alive. So I met this cool guy and we had a video date, and I think we're going to have an in-person date, and it feels good.
Good.
So I learned to not catch your chickens before they're hatched.
I thought I said learn not to catch your feelings.
Oh, well, that too. That you hold those for way down the line, I've learned. But I'm not going to count my chickens before they're hatched. But so maybe dating not on hold for a minute. But yeah, I think it all feeds well into today's topic, which is stages of relationships. And I realized when I was researching this that if everybody understands this, and if I would have understood this as a younger person, I might have actually tried harder in some of those relationships, realizing that it was a normal stage that happens versus feeling like, oh, the feelings have just died, or we're struggling too much, so it's not worth it. So it'll be interesting. We're going to run through it. There's essentially a bunch. When I was researching it, I literally have like 5 different people's opinions of what they call the stages of relationships. But most of them line up, except for the one who did it in the beginning. This was hilarious. In 1976, I always like to go back in history. In 1976, Levenger, a psychiatrist, posed 5 stages of relationship theories. That this is how they unfold: acquaintance, when you meet each other, the buildup and the excitement, the continuation into something more, the deterioration as it starts to fall apart, and the termination when it ends. It's true. Looking at it, how many relationships have you looked at or been in that feel like that? It's going, and then they start.
I think that they definitely have a beginning, middle, and end. The 3-part play.
Yes. But with the goal of trying to continue those further, a bunch of other people came up with other, dating, honeymoon, power struggle, stability, bliss. The goal is that you end in bliss because you've done this so long together that you've worked out all the kinks.
You could also work that through: doesn't wear socks to bed, wears socks to bed.
Because
to sex, I mean, like doesn't wear socks during sex.
Oh, thank you. That's better. I was like, socks to bed is good because I don't want cold feet on me, but socks during sex.
Cute underpants to bed.
Yes.
Radio t-shirt.
Death of sex. Death of sex. Death of sex.
Death of sex, when it's like, you've been with me so long, you will fuck me no matter what the hell I look like.
I have not shaved my legs. It doesn't matter.
And God bless the partners who always say, I don't care. You do care, but you're going to lie.
But you still want sex.
You're going to lie because you want to get laid. And I respect that.
I respect it. But
I go into the pubic, they're like, there's like birds flying out. They're like, Jesus. They come out like Indiana Jones on the other side.
Okay, we're being silly, but it's a true statement. Along with the relationship stages are the sex stages and how much you don't care at one point and you're still going to have sex. Right. This is interesting though. So after 5 of them, I went through 5 different ones and I kind of came up with my own names at that point. I'm going to put a time frame on them, but the time frames are very linear and they're very different for everybody, right? But essentially 0 to 6 months, the infatuation stage. 6 months to 2 years, honeymoonish. 2 years to 5 years, power struggle. 5 years to 10 years, more stability. 10 years, you're moving into bliss, commitment, and co-creation if you get that far. I have never made it that far. I made it 5 years.
I think 3.5 is my...
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, 3.5, where I should have probably said sayonara, they should have said sayonara within, much, much sooner.
Same here.
We've all stuck it out in relationships where we shouldn't have for some inexplicable reason.
It's not inexplicable. It is not inexplicable. Explicable? It's called the sunk cost fallacy. You have sunk so much in.
Oh, yeah.
That you therefore don't want to get out. You want to keep trying.
Yeah.
Yeah. I too. But also remember, the amount of time isn't always linear with what stage you're in. And the stages can come and go. I was recently talking to a client who they were in a bliss stage. They'd made it. They'd been like at 10 years and everything was good. But all of a sudden she was going through menopause and he was still horny as a dog. And all of a sudden they were back in that power struggle phase where it was like, hold on, we're not on the same page. And so those stages can constantly shuffle based on what's going on in life. I think you can probably move quicker from like infatuation, honeymoon into power struggle based on a lot of things. Somebody has kids, stressors. Like my goal would be like, let's stay in the honeymoon phase for a long time, but it doesn't always work that way, right? So
living together, I think, screws that up a little bit. And I have a theory that one should not defecate or urinate in front of one's loved one if you want to keep the relationship alive, unless you're into that kind of thing, which we'll talk about in our next episode.
Yes. In 2 weeks, we're going to be talking about fetishes. And if you want to pee on somebody, feel free.
We've all been peed on, let's be honest.
I did once in a shower and it was hot as could be. So in 2 weeks,
I don't know if I would call it hot, but I was like, are you peeing on me?
It was literally hot and it was figuratively hot. I was like, that's kind of hot.
So funny.
Anyway, so the stages, we're going to explain the stages. So generally in the beginning, the infatuation, the honeymoon, they're less stressful. Even sometimes the power struggle, but then they're more stressful. I had that backwards. They're definitely more stressful because you're trying to get to know each other. You're trying to suss each other out. And then once you move past the power struggle into kind of that bliss.
I'm going to stop you really quick. Are we recording? I hit the record button, but now I'm kind of, oh yeah, we are. Okay, good.
Oh, thank God.
I was like, oh shit. All right.
Because we were being so fun and funny. I didn't want to do that again. I was
be very upset that we have to do that over again.
So when you see your finger, you're going to do the thing. You're going to cut it out.
Or not. I don't, it's whatever. Go on.
What was I saying? We should cut that out. What was I saying? Okay, hold on. I was at the, stressful part. We'll start there. So generally, the dating, honeymoon, and power struggle phases are way more stressful in a relationship, right? Because it's just, you're trying to get to know each other, you're back and forth, you're trying to figure out what's right. But the goal is to get to that kind of more stability, bliss down the road where you've ironed out a lot of that stuff. Things are still going to come into play. So the dating infatuation stage, you're in honeymoon, you're blissful, you've got your rose-colored glasses on, you don't even see a damn flaw that this person has because you're so like, Wah! And of course, remember we talked about it once, I think it was our hormone episode. I forget what that one was called, but it was all about the hormones. And essentially when you're hormone driven like that, you're oxytocin and dopamine out. And you are not going to notice that somebody has things wrong with them. This is not a good phase to decide that you're going to live together, get married, have children.
Although we're at the age now and have the experience now where I think we can look at a person and say, oh, that's going to drive me crazy.
Oh yeah, quickly.
And I'm going to ignore it. You're like, you know what I mean? You're like, oh, that's for sure something I don't.
Yeah.
Like, it's sort of like, that's fine.
But it's not a deal breaker.
My boobs used to be here and now they're kind of here.
Totally.
And so I'll just accept you for who you are.
Yeah. But as long as it's not a deal breaker, everybody's got their list of deal breakers, right? Yeah. But you're only seeing their light side. You're really not seeing, you're in complete denial. So there's a neurologist, Lucy Brown, who says that love is forgiveness and suspension of judgment and an overlook of somebody's flaws. And that's great if you're in the like 6 month to 2 year honeymoon phase where you're aware of their flaws, but you're overlooking them. The problem is some people meet and in the first 3 months they're living together and they don't even see those things yet, right?
Also, people, I say this almost every episode, they send their representatives. And so they're not even showing who they actually are for 6 months to a year.
Yep. Yeah.
I don't know how what is that? There's a reality show where people just meet and then get married. I find that
one of them's like blind dating or something. They don't even see each other.
Marriage though, it's so wild. I think, oof. I mean, that's ballsy, really. That's a risk I wouldn't take.
No, and it's not very likely to last, right? That's
probably not. Although arranged marriages last a very long time and in many cultures. So
I wonder if that's a cultural thing though.
Maybe.
Because when I was just launching my coaching business and there was a marriage shop with dresses and everything. And I went in and gave her some of my business cards. We had this whole long chat, and she had these pictures on the wall of all the married couples. And she goes, unfortunately, she goes, about once a week, I'm pulling one down because they got divorced.
Yeah. My parents have been married for freaking ever, decades and decades. And, they're much older, and they definitely had decades where they fought like cats and dogs, and they are in a really nice phase now. I was just with them, and my mom actually went to the car to get my dad a pillow when he was back with her. And I thought, who are these people? But they've settled into this new phase of their life, and
which we could call bliss or true commitment, or
probably true commitment at this stage. Now they're just buying time, because one of them's going to drop dead any minute, probably.
Well, going back to that guy and his like termination at the end, all relationships have ended at some point.
Yeah.
But like, my dad's relationship ended because my mom passed away. His relationship ended. So if you stick it out long enough, at some point it's still going to end.
Yeah, and I'm being flippant, but it is true that in many cases, for long-term relationships, when one partner dies, the other one dies within a year-ish, I would say. That's common knowledge.
Yes.
So
my dad's only holding on because he's got 7 children, and we're like rallying. Come on, Dad, we're coming to see it. This person's coming to see you. This person's coming to see you. But I think it would have been true. He probably would have made it about a year if it weren't for the kids after my mom passed. Yeah.
I wondered that about my own parents. I think. Yeah. I mean, at that point,
sorry to interrupt, but women will live for years past when their spouse, oftentimes. It's more likely men that pass away within a year of losing their spouse.
Unless they're in love. If they're in love, but if they're just going on to get along kind of thing, then I would say that that's definitely true. They get a whole new reason to live.
Yes. Well, on that note, I had a quote from this guy that I listened to on YouTube. I like him, Jason Gaddis. Love is never enough to make a partnership work. If just loving someone was all it took to make a relationship work, the marriage success rate would be 100%.
Right.
So again, people that dive in the beginning and are like, let's live together, let's get married, and you don't even know each other, the odds are you're going to be on that wall in some wedding shop, and 6 months later you're getting pulled off the wall.
Sad.
That's why we're doing the podcast. We're going to help people. So here's some tips on how do you make it through that fun, like infatuation stage without getting carried away. So don't overproject. This is when you like extrapolate that like, the feelings that I have right now are going to equal a good relationship, and my feelings equal their feelings. You're like extrapolating? Yeah. Extrapolating all this information based on your feelings, which isn't necessarily going to happen, right? And so instead you should be focusing on like, do we have the shared values about commitment? Do we have the similar lifestyle and beliefs, and what do we want in our life moving forward? Instead, many people just focus on those feelings. Not always a good thing.
Or they say, ooh, the sex is great.
Which goes along with the feelings and the oxytocin. And in the first 0 to 6 months, I get carried away every time. I am telling myself.
I've seen your sex toy chest. I get it.
But apart from even the sex toys, like emotionally, mentally, I'm super particular. For me to like somebody happens so frequently.
I mean, you fall hard and in deep. I feel like
if I like somebody,
and I'm the opposite. I take my time and
But I only find I like somebody like really like somebody where I can see it lining up, and I like them and they like me, and it's all about every 5 to 8 years. So I give myself a little credit that like it's hard not to jump. But next time I meet somebody, I'm going to come back and listen to this podcast and be like. Year 5 is when you jump. So you should also be aware if somebody's being a little wishy-washy in any kind of fashion, and only give them the time and attention that they're giving you. This is a cool analogy I heard. Like you think you're in and you think they're in. It's almost like if you're like on the side of the road getting ready to hitchhike and a car stops, but they say, oh, you know what? I'm only going 5 minutes up the road and I'm going to turn around and go back the other way. Why the fuck would you get in that car?
That's a big one. That's the thing where people give you, they love bomb you, or they're really present, and then you reciprocate even a little bit, and then they take it away, and you think, I'm sorry, or they ghost you. Ghosting to me, firstly, I don't care who hears this, I'm gonna say it, is so immature. Grow
So
up.
true.
Just grow up and
It
say,
is
I'm
true.
not into you, or I like you as a person, but I don't see this progressing, or whatever. Send it in an email, send it in a text, have coffee and say it to their face, but say it. It's so
Okay.
rude.
But don't you, so I was feeling like this was just such a new, it is proven. I've read studies. The ghosting numbers are off the charts because of the apps and everybody's behavior around dating and the
It's so
hookup
easy to
culture.
be live,
Yeah.
and I just think it's rude. It's just
I know.
not nice.
The hookup culture has led to more of that. But I'm sitting in my old bedroom with my dad, and he's up and down out of bed, but mostly in bed. And my brother pulls out all these journals from my mom. And I start reading these pages, and I'm like, Dad, who was mom in love with before you? What? And I keep reading. She's like, I'm heartbroken and you've left and I haven't heard from you. And finally, at some point, she goes, Gordon, and she's in the writing in her journal. I go, Dad, you ghosted my mom. He did. He had kids and he took them off across the country to go drop them with their moms in Chicago, but he wasn't being communicative. And he totally ghosted her, and it broke her heart. And then they ended up back together.
Yeah.
So
That's
it
my
isn't.
thing. It's like, have faith that we can handle. Have faith that let someone rise to the occasion is my whole thing. Let someone rise to the occasion.
Yes. And this goes back to that whole infatuation stage. You need to slow it down. You need to be talking, not just fucking. And what happens in the beginning? You spend more time.
Both.
I like to talk in bed. I'm good for that.
Oh, I'm big on that. I'm
big on that.
I want to laugh
together.
Yeah, you should laugh. I'm not shit. I mean, I shouldn't put that out there, but I like to. I'm a goofy gal.
Yeah.
I want to laugh and talk.
Be silly, and unfortunately, with as busy as everybody is, like,
is this thing on? That's a classic. That joke will never get old.
It doesn't get old. Have you done it? I actually haven't done it.
So many times.
Is it on? Can you hear me down there?
Moon River. Oh, yeah.
You're so cute today. I love your energy. You are in good energy, girl. So if it's not working, cut your losses. Don't buy into that sunk cost fallacy. Get out. Even if you're in month 3 and you're still all Twitter-pated, that hitchhiking analogy. If you find out somebody doesn't want kids, but you want kids, get out.
Get out.
You're in a car going the wrong way.
I have had so many conversations with people who are not happy in their relationships. And I say, did you know? And they say,
always.
Yes. And I thought it would change.
Yep. Every time.
It never changes, y'all. Like, it's not going to change.
It's not going to change.
Especially if you're older and dating. But it's not, I mean, some people might grow into new ideas, but it's not going to change. People are who they are.
People are who they are.
But they're trying to get laid. So they're going to be like,
trying to
oh yeah, I might want kids someday. I don't want kids. They have a vasectomy.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, I think I might want kids.
It is the thing.
Listen, if Chris Evans called me and he said, I really want kids someday, I'd be like, yeah, me too.
I definitely think you would lie to Chris Evans just to get to have sex with Chris Evans.
Like,
You've brought him out multiple times.
I'm only human. I'll go steal some babies. I'll just show them up I'll be like, oh, look, a baby. Good job.
Okay, so the thing is once you get past, unfortunately, so that's like the infatuation, right? And then you've got the honeymoon, which is like that, like maybe 6 month to 2 month mark where, why am I moving straight into power struggle? We can't skip the honeymoon phase. That's the best part.
That's just when everyone's blissed out and.
Well, yeah, you're still blissed out.
Coffee, like your foot rubbed, Let's
you're
take
doing
everything together.
Yeah, you're doing everything together. You're going and doing fun. But actually, that's my favorite phase. You're going camping and then you do group things with your friends and then you're doing things alone and you're really getting to know each other in that 6 to 2 month period.
Mm-hmm.
However,
our hormones are really hijacked at that point.
That's the problem. Hold on, let me go backwards. I must have missed it. Oh, I threw it away too soon.
Butt stuff.
I threw away the honeymoon phase, which is not what we want to throw away. So it is that like feeling of like being together and nothing's going to shake it. But here be the problem. Next up comes the power struggle phase. And that generally kicks in when there's some kind of commitment or change that's going on, whether like a change in permanence. We're going to live together. We're going to have a baby. Let's talk about marriage. Even just talking about dating exclusively sometimes starts that power struggle phase. But wait, I'm not ready to date. You're ready. You want to call it dating? I thought we were just hanging out, whatever that looks like.
Right.
I love Esther Perel. She always says the right things. Relationships should take a lot of effort, but should not truly be a lot of work. So if all of a sudden you're realizing that it's more work than it should be, again, it's worth revisiting. Should you be in this relationship?
That's that love is a verb. I mean, it does take, you have to be present. You have to be forthright. You have to have action. You have to do all that stuff really to maintain it. And you have to make it as a choice. Every day you have to decide, this day I choose to be in this with this person.
Yes.
If you're not making that active choice every day, stuff's going to falter.
It's going to all fall apart. So even during the power struggle phase, you still need to make that choice. That love is a verb.
Like, I hate you, but I still want to bang in. I still like you and all that stuff. But I hate you right now. So this was a fascinating thing that I heard about the power struggle phase. Picture yourself as a kid from 0 to 2 years. You're kind of can do no wrong, right? Like you're just a cute little kid. Somewhere around year 2, people start saying, no, no, good, bad, no, no. Put down that remote, that be a good girl. And so it's very similar to relationships. You can compare that. All of a sudden it's like, I don't like it that you do that. Please don't do that. No, no, no. Let me try to control you, put you in a box. And the problem is we make this mistake during the power struggle phase where we really want to try and control the person so we can feel safe and secure and put them in a box. But what happens when you do that? All of a sudden it's boring as hell. I was on a date once where the guy was putting about 80 pounds of sugar in his coffee. And we had gone out, a handful of times and things. And I thought, that's an interesting choice. And then I thought to myself, Susan, it's not your body, doesn't matter. Maybe he'll drop dead of a diabetes induced coma, who knows, but that's on him, and shut the fuck up. And
but what happens at year?
And then I drank my little black coffee and it was fine.
Yeah, but what happens when you're at year 2? That doesn't happen anymore. All of a sudden you're so entwined that you're like,
because you care and you
drop dead from a heart attack, you're my person.
But I think the older I get, the more I'm like, if you drop dead of a heart attack, that's your problem. It's like, I wish you wouldn't do that, but it's not my problem. It's your problem. And the older I get, the more personal dominion I get, and then I can understand another person's personal dominion.
Yeah. I want a lot of personal dominion. Therefore I have to give a lot of personal dominion.
Yeah.
But the problem is you have to pick your battles, right? You want them to have just enough of an edge. That's why people like bad boys, because they're always like, well, he's only going to do so much of what I ask. Therefore, there's still going to be that thrill and danger factor. If somebody's doing everything you want of them, there's no fun. And then guess what happens? The sex life goes down the freaking tubes. So you have to have
control me in my leather jacket.
In the bad boy, the bad boy phase.
Although in my house, you put the toilet seat all the way down. But if I'm at your house and the toilet seat's up, I will just be more aware. If it's the middle of the night and I gotta pee, I will feel around for that shit first.
You'll try not to fall in.
It's the worst.
I hear
We've all
you.
been there. We've all fallen in the middle of the night. It's not fun.
It is not fun. In this one, we linked down to a talk that Esther Perel was in, because she is my favorite. And it's minute 30. She talks about how you really have to have independence from your partner. And this goes back to what we've always said about space. You have to make sure that you have fun-filled, independent lives. Otherwise, everything gets too familiar. You're only together. There's no excitement. There's no mystery. Yeah. We want to feel safe and secure, but you have to have a slight level of mystery left, or else why bother?
Yeah, you have to. I keep saying the word have to. Nobody has to do anything, but it's this feeling of give people independence to be who they are, and hopefully they give you room to be who you are, because as if we shove them like veal into tiny boxes, who's happy doing that? I don't belong to anyone. I always say, I'm like, I belong to no one. I am a free spirit, blah, 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 whatever you say. Yeah. But it's true. I mean, Ew, gross. Nobody likes to be told what to do or how
I
to.
start feeling claustrophobic. But unfortunately, we'll go back to this at the end because we're going to talk about how attachment styles play into this. As an anxious person, if my needs aren't getting met, I can try to put somebody in a box, and I don't like that about myself. But I'm only doing that because my needs aren't getting met. It's a bad cycle. This guy was pretty cool. This guy, Bruce Music, he's a relationship repair expert. And his website is called Love at First Fight. And it's kind of true. He talks about how nature makes sure that you fall in love with someone who seems to be the most incompatible person in the entire universe. The person least capable of meeting any of your needs and most capable of making all your nightmares come true.
That's hilarious. I love that love at first fight. You definitely can try to learn how to fight with the other person. You don't be cruel. You don't call names, and know that whatever is coming out of your mouth is never coming back. It's never being taken back. So when you do try feel statements instead of I think or you are or pointing the finger, because the only person we have control of is ourselves. So if you and I are in a tete-a-tete, I would say, I feel this, or I'm getting anxious because of this, or this. If I say, you're making me anxious, you're doing this, it doesn't feel good. And I'm pointing at you and I'm mad and I'm,
that goes back to, we did that whole episode on communication and conflict. During the power struggle phase, if you're in a power struggle phase right now and listening to this, go back and listen to our episode on communication and conflict, because if you can communicate with the I feels and not bring the 4 horsemen in and get all nasty, you might just make it through the power struggle phase. Yeah. So I'm going to give us some tips on how you make it through this phase, apart from communication. Well,
right. Good.
But what always happens is one person tends to withdraw, one person tends to pursue. It's called the seeker and the sought. And so when you're going through this power struggle phase, there's a lot of that like back and forth that starts to happen again. And so again, going back to, we linked to it. Esther Perel talked a lot in this episode. We linked to about
links down here.
Yeah, links down below. Minute 30, Esther Perel starts talking about how you need to have space and community. You need to diversify your relationships. Your person cannot be your only best friend. They can be a best friend, but they cannot be your only best friend, because then what happens is you rely on them too much. You get too comfortable. There's no mystery left. You also want to encourage your partner if they're not doing it. Go have exciting experiences. Go do these things so we can come back together and have an exciting relationship.
When I was a kid, my great aunt Quail, God rest her soul, said, because she died, never married. She died with 2 boyfriends, and they knew about each other. But
at the same time?
Yeah,
she did?
Oh yeah, she's a badass.
Go Quail.
I know. When I was young, she said, Susan, no one person can be all things to you. That's an impossible task, and to require that of someone isn't fair. And understand that as you move through your life, there will be different people in your life that represent different parts of your own personality and bring out the best and the worst in you.
Yes.
And I was like, that's some good advice, Auntie. She was awesome. I loved her.
She was like way ahead of her time.
Oh my God.
She was polyamorous before polyamory was like a thing.
Way ahead of her time.
Nobody had written the books yet.
No, she was.
Wow. I'm jealous. I want 2 boyfriends.
Yeah.
I can't even find one person I like that much. And I'm not lowering my standards. So there's that. Go Quail. I like this about her. So you definitely want to, in that power struggle, go back and listen to our communication conflict. You want to talk, repair it quickly, compromise and share the power. If all else fails, get a coach or a counselor, because there's only 2 or 3 options when you're in this power struggle phase. You can either break up, which is where I've always landed. Once in this power struggle phase, I give up. Or you can stay together and keep trying, or you just keep circling the drain in this horrible thing of power struggle, never really getting anywhere. And then, of course, you're disconnected. You're not having sex. You're not having fun.
The third option is murder, but you don't want that one.
Murder.
I
was joking with a friend. Her man wants too much sex and she doesn't. I said, there must be some kind of supplement you can put in his food that lowers his testosterone level just a little bit. Okay. It was a total joke. No, to me. That was not advice on how to handle discordant sexual.
That's what she needs to walk around the house in the sweats and the face mask and her hair rescue and like the little zit creams and things. And but the truth of the matter is, the guy will be like, just turn around. It's
Yeah,
fine.
he doesn't care. Yeah, they're not going to care. It's still like, just give me what I need. Walk on. So for me, I call it the light switch theory. This holds more true with women, I think. Tell me if you've ever experienced this. So you're in a relationship, you're in the power struggle phase, you're saying, I would like these things to change. I don't feel like this is enough. We're not communicating, whatever it is. We don't have enough time together. We have too much time together. And the other person isn't hearing you, and they're not hearing you. To me, the light switch starts to dim. It keeps dimming. They're not hearing you. That can go on for a year or two. You're like, I don't know how many times we're going to talk about this. For me personally, and I do think it's more women than men, the light switch goes off. And if it goes off enough, that light switch is never going back on.
I think it's for both sexes.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, it's for both sexes.
Except for I feel like women tend to be the ones who are more aware of where the relationship is and more aware of the detriments in the relationship.
I think it's
and
because
more likely
women go inward for that, and men go outward. So
Yes.
men will start being distracted maybe more by external influence, whereas women go internal and be like, I don't know, that kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Men are like, I'm just going to work more. I'm going to go do my hobby more. And women are like, things feel a little broken. How do we repair?
I have a couple of friends who are lesbian couples, and they have issues with eventually the sex burns out, and they sort of settle into the cuddly phase, and one of them being less excited about that phase than the other, depending on age range and all that. So I don't know about gay men, but from what I understand from my gay male friends, it never dies. They just say,
it never dies.
Fuck, let's do it. Yeah.
It never dies. And when it starts to slow down, they agree to bring somebody in, or they agree to go out, and then they come back in. I've always been so jealous of my gay friends.
Yeah, I went and saw Bros, the movie Bros. It was fantastic. And it was a rom-com about gay partnership. It's such a great movie.
Is it out in Netflix yet? Or?
It's probably going to be Netflixy soon enough, but
I'll have to watch it.
Theaters. It was really a lot of fun. Also very hot men in it. Yeah, which
I'm writing it down. Hot men and relationship. I watch all the things relationship because
it's called Bros. It's very good.
I like it a lot.
It is interesting. I think that there is a difference in how people turn away from relationship, whether they go inward and they don't want to talk, or they don't want to be touched, or they don't want to cuddle, or they don't want to, whatever it is. And then the ones that are out seeking it elsewhere.
It goes back to that kind of seeker and the sought. I'm always the seeker, and the other people are always, seeker, sought. Yeah, like always kind of trying to make sure that things are cohesive and together, which we'll get to it in a second, but that goes back to attachment styles, which we did a whole episode, I think it was episode 10 on attachment styles. It plays into your relationship stages as well. So essentially, if you get through the power struggle phase, you can end up in a more kind of stability, pretty much stability. You're stable. You've ironed out the bigger issues. You're getting along. Everything feels calm. You can actually even have another baby honeymoon phase because it just feels so good that everything's easy. The problem is at that point, that's when you need to start new activities, branching out, making new friends, or else things get stale. And again, stale equals no sex.
I wonder why that's a lot of couples have couples friends without a lot of singles friends. Because I noticed when a lot of my friends started getting married, they started hanging out more with other married people and less with the singletons, which is interesting. And then there's the dudes that are, and again, this is reference to heterosexual relationships. I don't know what it's like in gay relationships, but that are happy life. They hit a kind of a stride where they go, if my life's going to be great, it's because I let my wife make all the decisions.
Yes.
Which makes me laugh. And that's really kind of old school, but that's hilarious.
My whole childhood was like that. Go ask your mom. Go ask your mom. And so I like the more kind of cohesive. We're both.
I do too.
Compromise. We both have say in everything. But we're in a new dynamic now in relationships. Before it was you had to get married because you wanted to have kids. You had to get married because of finances. You had to get married for status. we're in a whole different paradigm now where you can do whatever the hell you want.
You don't even have to get married. Why are we doing a good thing? Yeah.
I don't really want to get married. So, I mean, I think this is my fake wedding ring, having a fun ring someday and having a commitment together is enough for me personally. Yeah.
I think if I had had children, if I had a partner and had children, I would be very irritated if that partner said, go ask your mother. I would be like, we are a united front and we build out everything together.
United.
That would be my vibe. But I get that why people, my parents were like that. My mother was insane. So, Dad would say, what does your mother say? I'm like, I'm not asking her. She's crazy. That's a crazy one. I'm asking you. You're the nice one.
And you realize that at like age 3, huh? Kids are smarter than we give them credit for. At age 3, you were like, Dad is sane. I'm asking him.
Yeah.
I know.
He's just as scared as her as I am. So.
But it sounds like she's mellowed out and they're doing
yeah.
So they might be in this phase, which is one of the final ones. So we talked about they're just kind of like holding steady. But once you get through that stability, then you're kind of into bliss, commitment. So they're probably just like you said, commitment, ready to die together someday phase. But the other thing that can happen in that phase, which I was hearing a lot from all these different things I listened to, was kind of this co-creation phase. And I have a one friend couple who've been together, 20 years total, married for 15, and they were almost going to call it. You should have seen all of us. I sobbed. I will cry right now thinking about it. It's like your parents getting divorced. I'm like, what do you mean you guys are? Also, it felt like if they can't make it work, then nobody can make it work. And I lost my shit. I was like, so they pulled it back together. They communicated. They're coming together. They've figured it out. They went back to counseling. I'm so proud of them. But they are doing a lot of that co-creation phase. So the other thing that happens is, raising grandbabies together or helping grandbabies, building a business, building houses, all these things that can happen down the road when you are stable and together and having that commitment forever. So, but honestly,
and we've talked about the idea of bringing in therapists before things get awry so that you can say, hey, let's build the skills now. So if something comes up, we have the skills. I think a lot of people wait until things are cattywampus to say, oh, we better go to counseling, where if they do it when they're in a happy place, they can build that energy, that positive energy, and be able to settle things easier.
Ding, ding, ding. I feel like prevention is key, honestly.
Yeah.
No two people based on our childhoods and everything that you go through in life can come together and not have any issues. And so knowing how to streamline those issues with counseling, even from the beginning, or like I joke about that book, The 8 Dates, I'm going to find a man who will do that with me someday.
Well, and it's funny too, because like with the bad boys, like we've all seen that person across the room and thought, oh, you could fuck up my life. Let's do this. You know what I mean?
It's always my response. You might fucking make life miserable, but damn, let's do this every time. What is wrong with us? But it's because we want the excitement. So if you can find that mixed with somebody who takes the time to communicate, you build a foundation.
Yeah.
I think it's.
I mean, I've outgrown a lot of that stuff. That was definitely my 20s for sure.
But I still want a little bit of that.
Yeah.
I want a little bit
like
of that.
Kind of the bad boys.
But I need severe security and safety as well, or I'm not going to be able to move forward. But
maybe like a fireman or something, or a ranger.
I like the firemen because they're gone a couple nights a week and you can just be in your own bed. But I also have enough, because of what I do for a living, enough phobias around like safety and like risk stratification. Firefighters put themselves, God bless them. Thank you for your service if you're listening.
Yes.
There was a guy online on the video who was a firefighter, and we were talking, and then I realized he was like a wildland firefighter. And I was like, dude, like hearing some stories from my firefighter friends about what it's like to go out there in the middle of firestorms. I was like, I nicely said to him, I don't have the wherewithal to date somebody with the fire seasons we have coming in our future. I won't be able to sleep. I won't be able to eat. I know myself well enough that I can't date you, but thank you for the interest.
I live next to the elder care facility, and the firefighters show up a lot. And, whenever I hear that little truck pull up, I'm just like looking out my window. Hello, boys and girls, but mostly the boys.
I totally was the one. So I used to work on an ambulance and in a hospital. So whenever somebody code yellow in our clinic, somebody falls down, I would go running because I know what to do because I worked in an ER and on an ambulance. But the secondary benefit to that was when you're with the patient when all the firefighters showed up. It was a secondary gain. It wasn't the reason I was going to help the patients, mind you.
Fine.
Okay, so going back to the smart thing to do. Remember, before the bliss and before like that happy bliss, there's a stability phase. I forgot to mention this. That somewhere you're 2 to 5-ish is when you should be talking about living together, moving in together, getting married, because now you're more stable and you actually know each other. And I know that that's not real world, but that's what people should try to do.
Yeah, or live next door to each other.
Yeah, that's my favorite plan.
Yeah, the little gerbil habit trail in the center of the two houses.
Yeah. You can still share some bills. You could share a cable line. You could share some groceries.
Yeah, sure.
But you have your own space to have like life. Yeah.
You gotta have space. Gotta have it.
I 100% agree with that. But again, too much space makes me feel not safe and secure. So back to the attachment style thing. Tips for that bliss thing. Be careful when you're in that year, like, I don't know, what is it, like 5 to 10, 10 above, that you're still putting enough focus into the relationship that it doesn't die, that you're still feeding the relationship.
Keep dating each other,
dating each other. Don't give up. My friends didn't give up. I'm so proud of them for not doing that. So conclusion on all of that is that the stages are not linear. I keep saying 0 to 6 months, 6 years to 2.
Oh yeah, they bounce around probably too. Yeah.
And they're different for every single couple. And they're different, but these are just kind of general ideas of like, if you have been doing really well, but you hit a small power struggle phase, don't just throw your hands up and give up. There's good stuff on either side of that. Back to honeymoon phase, back to bliss stage. But the attachment styles also play, you know how it's like fascinated I am with these attachment styles. I think it's episode 10. Go back and listen. So your attachment styles actually dictate how you do in these relationship stages. So there's an article in there. I think it's down below in our links when you're subscribing to us down below.
Subscribe, just subscribe. It really is helpful and we appreciate it. And well, I'll tell you in a minute. Keep going.
Yeah. So there's part 1 and there's part 2 that essentially how your attachment styles dictate how you respond in these phases. But essentially, if you're an avoidant person, you want to stay in the dating period longer. You want to slow it down because you're avoidant. You don't want to get too enmeshed and emotionally intimate.
That's me.
Exactly. And you want a shorter honeymoon phase sometimes, which sounds weird, but the honeymoon phase is where it's all gooey and very intimate. And for some avoidant people, that scares them. And so they want to shorten that honeymoon phase, which pushes you much faster into the power struggle phase, which is totally opposite of what us anxious people do. Us anxious people are like, okay, sure, we're getting to know each other in the first 5 or 6 dates, but can we get to honeymoon? Because then when I know you really like me and I really like you and we're gooey and ooey together and it's all fabulous, I feel safe and secure. And then of course, anxious people like me also really want to stay in that honeymoon phase forever, because as soon as we get into the power struggle phase, we're like, wait, like, is there something wrong? There's too much I'm good with tension. I'm good with communicating. But if there's too much tension in that power struggle phase, anxious people are going to be like, wait a minute, are we going to end because we're fighting and there's tension? And it spikes up all those fears of abandonment, which are anxious people's biggest triggers.
The song "Are We There Yet" that is playing at the beginning of this episode is
that you wrote and sang.
That I wrote and sang. I wrote with a couple friends of mine and I sing it on the thing. But that song is about that exact thing, that moment of being in the power struggle and making the decision whether you keep going or not. That's exactly what that song is about.
I'm going to listen to it again with that bent. I remember it feeling like that. I've listened to it several times, and I listen to the intro a lot because it's our intro. Good job. Yeah, the power struggle phase. Like, do you stay or do I stay or do I go now? I'm going to leave the singing to you. I can't believe I just did that. So on that note, I think we covered most of it.
I love all the chaos of this episode. It's been fun.
It's been fun. I like us a little chaos too. I think my goal in the future is to remember that a power struggle phase Am I falling out?
No, me. I just scratched and it got all red.
Well, am I falling out? I think that I'm going to remember in the future that if things are really going well, to not freak out during any kind of power stage struggle, that it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to end.
Breathe through it. And honestly, communication is key. Through any kind of power struggle. If something doesn't feel right, you name it and you talk about it. Because if you let it fester or you ignore it, it's only going to get bigger, or you'll end up fighting about dumbass stuff, because that is the replication. That's the thing that you're going to focus on, so you don't have to deal with the big stuff. And then you end up breaking up because he put the, or she put the small forks in the big fork place. And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
I have friends who fight about how to load the dishwasher.
It's because they can't have the real conversations. So they have to, met it out with these other weird, smaller fights.
My friend shared with me this whole fight about how they load the dishwasher. And I wasn't in coaching mode at the time, but I was thinking, this has nothing to do with the dishwasher.
Here's a great secret. Who the fuck cares? You let them load it however they want. You load it when it's your turn to load however you want. And that's it. Who cares? Will a couple dishes not get washed right? Probably.
But like we pointed out.
Can you hand wash them? Yes. Can you put them back in the dishwasher? Yes. Is it worth destroying a relationship because somebody likes to put a plate here or there or whatever? It's not worth it. Who the fuck cares?
Every time
goddamn dishwasher. I gotta swear, because I'm like,
no. But we already talked about there's underlying bigger things.
I know.
And it plays out every time my twin sister comes to stay with me because she washes her dishes. And to me, it doesn't feel clean. The dishwasher feels cleaner, and I'm a bit of a germaphobe. But more importantly, you run more water. And I'm a total water saver now. But then I realized there's also so her and I had some conversations. It's also the underlying thing of, you're not respecting my wishes. Really what it comes down to is I've said it.
But also you're not respecting her wishes, because her wishes are, I like to hand wash my, she's in your house. That's my thing with like, put the toilet seat down in my house. In your house, you can do whatever you want. This is my house. But when I see it, I just laugh and I say, oh, nice job or whatever. And I kind of, but it's at the end of the day, which is the worst expression ever. Who cares? Like,
it doesn't.
If you're a person that wants to have sex with you, you're doing pretty good.
But remember, so on that note, we put a quiz down below. I took the quiz based on different relationships, like my longest 3-year, 5-year, and they all ended in the power struggle phase, which I already knew. And I think you had a different experience. You were like, I'm not going to do this.
I went to take the quiz and I thought, I don't have a person to, and every single relationship I've had has ended in various ways. So I couldn't even do that where I say, I'll just pretend I'm in this relationship.
Right. So people who are listening, if you want to take the quiz and you're single, you can take it based on past relationships and try to think about how they ended and why. Yeah. And if you're in a relationship, you can take it and kind of figure out what phase of relationship.
That seems better for the quiz.
Yeah. For people that are in relationship. And you were going to say something about subscribing.
Yeah, subscribe below. You can email us with questions or comments. Please do that. That's also below. And we had talked previously about putting this out as a podcast of just audio, and we made the decision to hold off on that because we're trying to build subscribers on YouTube. So please subscribe, tell your friends, get the word out, and we'll worry about the podcast in the new year. But for now, this is what you get. So
on YouTube, I think we had a couple thoughts about that. Some of the stuff we do is visual. So we're always getting
very visual.
Even once we do podcasts in the future, we're always going to have YouTube in case you choose to watch it. Yeah. But people can easily just listen to the YouTube without watching if they want to do it that style. Yeah. And I think you're right. We're going to grow YouTube and go from there. Yeah.
We'll see what happens. Thank you for listening, everybody.
Thank you. In 2 weeks, we'll be talking about fetishes and kink. It's going to be fun.
That's going to be a good one. Thank you. I love you, Mara. Thank you. Yeah. Bye, everybody.
Stay well and connected, everybody. Take care.
Bye.